right. Good morning, everybody. Ned here, Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHS.com, where we have some really super interesting topics, topics of conversation, people who want to join us, who are here to serve, to give, to love, to do all of the things to help us, grow and live this amazing life that we have. And so today we have on Andy Muncie, who is. This is a conversation. I'm going to stop here and tell you, if you have a daughter, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, if you have a daughter or you are of still age where you're menstruating, I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to go right now and get your friends and get your family and get your kids and pay attention to this, because as women, I think we tend to be so in tune with so many things about us. We have this innate ability to have this this intuition, right? I truly believe that. But there's so many things that we've lost. We've lost how to listen to our bodies. We've lost how to understand what it means, and I mean to a deep level, what it means to understand our cycle. Andy and I were talking about this prior to the show. I talked about it on the intro, or when I was sort of doing the promo for the show. But we have a cycle. We do this thing every month that so many of us hate, right? But there's a reason for it. It is God-given reason for this. And there's so many things about the intricacies of the entire month that we can listen to and pay attention to and learn from and optimize, right? This can help us optimize our entire life if we're doing things along with our cycle. Now, I'm saying all of this because I've talked to Andy already. There's still so much about this that I don't know, which is why this is going to be such an amazing conversation. But I hope that we can change this lack of knowledge, this lack of understanding of what it means to have this monthly cycle as a woman. And so, sorry, that was really long, Andy, but thanks for being here.
It's such an important conversation. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you.
Yes. So before we get started, though, as always, we start the show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world. I truly believe that. It's big. It's energetic. If we are in gratitude ourselves, it will spread, and that's what we want, and that's what we need, right? So, Andy, what are you grateful for today?
Well, of course, Nikki, I just absolutely love your energy, and I just feel so connected with you and inspired by you, so thank you. But on another level, I live so in tune with my menstrual cycle that I actually have life group, a family life group today. And I said to my pastor, I have these podcast books, and I thought we'd have to leave. And this is how, when you live in flow with your entire cycle, things line up for you. And everyone could move it till tomorrow. Sorry. And so I didn't have to rush out and miss anything. And my life flows in my favor because I live so in tune with my body and my intuition. So so I'm so grateful to be so connected to myself and thankful for my period.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Thank you for saying that. Pay attention to that. Everybody, we have to have a period. Okay, I'll stop there because I now need to talk about what I'm grateful for. Man, I didn't think about this prior to the show, except, actually, there are, and it's not anything that I'm going to get into right now, but there's some opportunities that I've been working on that I'm really excited about. So I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for opportunities. I'm grateful for a new year. I'm grateful that things are moving in a direction that I am continuously hoping and praying for. And it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. Well, maybe it's fun for me to, I'm trying to learn, gosh, I'm not speaking this well. I pray every day that I listen to God's guidance and that I hear it, right? And this is my biggest prayer, because so often in looking back, I've learned this about myself. I do things out of well, out of fear, right? Out of fear of lack, out of fear of whatever the case may be. And I'm trying to be really in tuned with that's not the way to live life, and know that there is a plan that I'm here to follow, and there are things, I talk about this on the show all the time. We all have these big, amazing things to do. We have these God-given gifts, and if we're living in fear, then we're not living to our fullest. And so this is kind of, my word of the year is trust. And so that's really what I'm trying to embody, is trusting the path, trusting God, trusting that I know how to listen and hear and follow, and I will make mistakes, but just whatever comes of all of these things that are starting to kind of, sprinkle around, I'm excited for it, and we'll just see what happens. And all of it is an experience, all of it is a learning experience, and that's what helps us all grow. So just trying to really pay attention to that. So I'm grateful for all of that. And grateful that you're here.
Yeah, and also God might be like putting you in situations of obedience. So, every little step is, are you obeying His word for you to keep growing and going to where He wants you to be. So if something didn't work out, you need to really look at what you were meant to learn in that. And maybe it was just obeying God's word. And that gave you a skill set, that you needed to go to the next step. So I absolutely love that.
I totally agree. And that's the thing is, while we're going through the junk, it's not always easy. That's not always hard. It's almost always hard. but that's how God molds us, right? And it's how we grow. And so that's where I am too, is these things that are, like I said, are just kind of around here that are potential opportunities. I'm really just trying to sit back and say, okay, just show me, which direction that I'm supposed to go, and if. So, and trust, right? Trust my word of the year. Good stuff. So, Andy, I'm so excited to jump into this, because this is something, I gave you plenty of time to get your family and get your kiddos and get your daughters. So if you haven't done it yet, go do it. So I want you to start by just telling us how you got started, what brought you to this point, what excites you, what motivates you, and how you started. So I have to say this because it's the cutest thing. Your program's called Alexa, Where's My Period, right? I mean, yes. It's just perfect. I just think it's amazing. So let's talk about your history and what brought you here, and then we can jump into all of the goodness.
Okay, sure. Well, I was totally unconscious to my period because I grew up with a mom whose period was irregular, and so I kind of copied her. I never wrote it down. She never taught me to write it down. It just showed up. I was so oblivious, didn't even understand really that every 28 days that you'd have a period. Like, you'd know it, but I didn't know it. And then I also remember, like, if we want to get into details, like when you ovulate, there is a mucus in your undies. I didn't even know any of that. I know. But I was just lucky that my mom was so confident in her body, and that she was a natural mom, where she passed down, like, your period is natural. So I did have that, like, it's a natural part of life. That's all I had. And so get me to when I was 31. I moved to the top of the Philippines. Just imagine a tiny fishing village with beautiful water. I moved there with my husband, and it was the first time I didn't have to work or do anything. And so one of the first books I attracted into my life was by Dr. Leonard Shlain, Sex, Time, Power. And it was the first time that someone had explained that a woman's menstrual cycle was connected to the moon. And it was the first book that I had come into contact with that was talking about the menstrual cycle. And I'd spent a period since I was 24, like having this spiritual awakening. I moved to London. I like really cut the cords from my mom. I was peeling back all the onion layers that I was conditioned to. I read so many spiritual books. My first awakening was in Japan by Eckhart Tolle. But when I read this was my second spiritual awakening, and I could not believe what I was like reading. It hit me in the heart. And I just, from there, did a deep dive. I then kept attracting books into my life. Christine Northrup, Women's Bodies, Women's Minds.
So good.
Alyssa Vitti. And it just went deeper and deeper and deeper, where I spent a whole year being a diligent scientist, where every day I would write out what phase of my cycle I was on, what day of my cycle, what the moon was doing, and I would go in and write. I would write how I was feeling. Even if I didn't feel like doing the activity, I would imagine, okay, I've got this energy, what would I be doing right now? I would see where all the creativity was, what foods I would be craving. I just honed in. And I did that for a whole year, where I just like really came one, you know, with my mind, body, and soul. And so then it just like totally changed my life. I designed my whole life around my cycle. And from there, like I knew I had to share it with the world. And it was like, how do I share this information with the world? Because each and every one of us cycle is unique. And also, I can sit here, like I'm so grateful that I have you, Nikki, to share this information, and I have the listeners listening in. But it's not until you do the work that you'll understand your own unique cycle, and it's going to be different for each and every one of us. So just imagine surfing. So I want to surf, so I read every book on surfing. I listen to every podcast. I go to master classes, but I never actually take the surfboard under my arm, like paddle out the back, and then ride the wave. Our menstrual cycle is kind of like that. And I like what you said at the beginning, Nikki. You said it's our innate nature. And I believe that every woman has what I'm talking about. They know it just here. They know that when they're in the PMS, they know like the cravings that they have. They know when they're energetic. But what I do is I really bring it to the surface, and I give vocabulary to them. They become a curious detective to really hone in on each of the 4 hormonal changes and what it means to them and their body. And that's why I created the Alexa as my period 28-day challenge, to have a transformational experience, to get to know who you are on the deepest level. So that's pretty much in a nutshell.
I love it, and I love how excited you are. That just makes me really happy. I have the first question I have. So we know the cycle of the moon, right? It's very predictable. Help me understand how, because women, we have different cycles at different times, right? How is that connected to the moon when we all have different timing on our cycles? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we have to go all the way back to the caveman time. So can you imagine what we look like? Can you imagine having like hairy armpits, like bushy eyebrows?
People still do.
You know, we've only got the earth, you know, that we're so connected to, and like, you know, we take away all our modern conveniences. There's no washing machine. You know, there's no dishwasher, there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no running water. So all we have is, you know, the sun rising and the moon setting. And so women were so connected back then. And remember, we're in tribes. You know, we're in tribes of women, so that, you know, at least that we had that. That's a positive experience. Yeah. So we would, you know, count the number of days from one new moon to the next new moon, and we would see that the majority of us would bleed under the new moon. Okay. And so then we would count, and it took 29.5 days to cycle from one new moon to the next new moon. And so that's where we start our menstrual phase under the new moon. And then they noticed that their energy rose under the moon cycle, because our hormones are mirror image of the moon cycle. And so then we would go, our energy would rise to the waxing moon. So you can imagine the moonlight is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the women back then would be like going out to into the grounds to harvest, the berries and all of that. And they had energy to do that. And then they'll follow the moon, and then it's the brightest moon. This is where we are right now. We're under the full moon, the brightest of the moon phases, the most energy. This is when the plants and animals, are so alive. This is when it's connection time, it's intimacy time. They knew this, this is when they knew that that's when they were going to have a baby, And then we go into the waning moon, so the moon starts to decrease in light. And so then, that's into our, PMS, that's when they need to retreat and gather their energy. And possibly their dreams and their visions might have became more alive then. And then we start the cycle again. The new moon comes, then it's the waxing moon. But today, we live in modern times, so women, don't follow the natural moon cycle, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just as long as you have a healthy moon menstrual cycle that's regular. And there's actually different meanings depending upon which moon phase you fall on. So I fell under the full moon this time. I've actually changed. I was a lot under the waning moon. It's really interesting to see which moon phase you fall under, that you have your period, and what's happening in your life. And so I've been in this waning moon phase, which is connected to my luteal phase, for so long. And that's remember, that's the moon going into the darkness. Mm-hmm. So I've been in a transformational phase. I've been really retreating and probably working on myself and probably getting ready to shine my light into the world with this work, because now I'm in the full moon phase. And so this is the wise woman, the wise woman that actually can go and teach her sisterhood, depart her knowledge and her wisdom and rise other sisters up. So it's very, very interesting to see the connection between the moon phases. Mm.
So fascinating. So one of the things you said was during the luteal phase, you dream more? Is that what you said? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, well, you should really take a journal and really see where your dreams are, because your hormones are directing every behavior and action and emotion. And it's really interesting. And you have to find your own unique pattern. So here in my follicular phase, I don't need as much sleep. This is when my estrogen and my testosterone is starting to rise. This is the least amount of sleep I need. And so I can wake up early, I can go to bed later, and I'm in my logical brain here, my most masculine side of the whole entire cycle. And so when I move here into ovulation, this is where my testosterone and my estrogen peaks. And it's very interesting to see what kind of dreams could be coming up. And it could be around intimacy as well, because this is where your egg wants to get fertilized. And then I go into my luteal phase where my progesterone rises, my estrogen and my testosterone has dropped. And when I have a lot of alone time, this is where I can connect directly to God, to my creative ideas, to my intuition. This for me is my prominent phase for downloads. But remember, ovulation time could be the time for you. You could, I don't know what it is for you. I'm just saying what it is for me. But yeah, this is, and another powerful time is our menstrual phase. So I learned from Christine Northrup, Women's Bodies with Women's Wisdom, is when we get here in our follicular and ovulation phase, this is where we're more in our logical brain. So we're getting things done. I said before, the masculine energy, we can just go get it, just keep going. And then when we get into these two, cycles here, we go more into that intuition, into the wisdom, into talking directly to God. So if you're ever having trouble with meditating, think about where you are in your cycle. Because for me, I know when I'm in this phase, it's harder for me to connect. Because I'm just I'm ready to go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I want to be out in the world. I want to be doing things. I don't want to sit still.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and so how empowering is it to understand, based on your own specific cycle, when and why and how and where to do things? Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can know, and this is part in your bio, but we can understand when to network, when to work out, when to work, like you said, work on ourselves to stay in. And one of the things I said in the promo also, and this is something that I learned years ago from another person who's really in tune with the cycle, but it's like seasons, right? These are like seasons. It's in understanding your cycle based on spring, right? You're growing, and then you've got summer, and then you've got fall, and things start to, just like with the moon, right? It's all very synonymous, but it makes sense. We have our seasons, and we have our seasons that can help us know how to best utilize what we need at that time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and I wish I had known this, well, years ago. These aren't things that are taught. These are, anymore, and which is why I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. I was clueless, and another thing that, maybe we can get into this a little bit. We have a situation, and so much of it's based on the toxins in our environment, right? We've talked about this a lot, but we have what are called xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are estrogen mimickers, and so they get into the body and they bind to our estrogen receptor sites, men and women. They bind more tightly to our estrogen receptor sites than they do than our natural estrogen does. So then what happens? We have these chemicals and these hormones, and everything is just throwing everything off. And so I've had clients who have told me stories of being taken to the emergency department because they're in so much pain that they have to go to the emergency department. And that's just heartbreaking to me. And this is a normal thing. I mean, normal, right? It's absolutely not normal. But we don't have an understanding of our cycle to realize that these intense hormonal fluctuations and hormonal dysregulation is not normal and needs to be addressed, right?
Yes, for sure. And so not only is the toxins in our environment, it's our diet, and I'm sure you're helping so many women, especially with the nutrition side, to heal the guts. And possibly coming off birth control as well. Are you finding that they're having problems because they've been on birth control for so long, and then they need to heal the gut that way before they possibly have a healthy menstrual cycle, or if they go on the fertility journey?
Yeah.
What are you finding there?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm encountering women, especially recently, I don't know why, but with chronic yeast infections, chronic urinary tract infections, and so much of this can be due to these hormones that we're taking, and the fact that we're on them for years and years and years. These, and they're chemical hormones, these are so problematic. There are other choices, and the fact that so many of them now, and doctors will tell you this all day long, you don't need your period, let's take this particular pill or IUD or whatever it is, and so you don't have a period. So yeah, go ahead, because I would love for you to my own opinions. I'm like, no.
It's so heartbreaking, and because we've come to such a modern age of living where everything is going so fast, and the quickest fix is just to take a pill. And the medical industry, yes, they're helpful for so many things, but in a lot of cases it's just take the pill and let's forget about it. And it's such a short-term fix. We need to be thinking about the long-term consequences, especially when we're living in a culture at the moment where we're giving it to our 13-year-old daughters to take the birth control pill because of acne and for irregular periods. when their ovaries are just starting to talk to the brain. And why isn't doctors using this approach to really get them to go on a program to understand their body as their full hormonal changes happen every single month instead of just popping the pill at the first instance? And then it's such a holistic approach to these young teenage girls. And I'm really talking about, they're going on the pill for the acne, for the irregular periods, for problems with their menstrual cycle, when we really need to take a holistic approach of what's been happening in their family life. Where's their dad? Because their dad is their number one protector, who was a direct line to their inner femininity. And so we need to be looking at their upbringing, what's happening in their family life, their stresses at school, and in their family life, and then their diet. The diet is such a huge thing to the brain, which you can talk on so well, but then it comes to this. This is the missing link to everything, because our body wants to produce a baby every single month, and it's going to give you the same patterns every single month that you can really hone in. Like, I know when my hormone drops, on what day it drops the same day every single month, and what I need to do to recover from that drop in hormones before I go crazy. And how I communicate that to my husband, so he is well aware of what I need just to navigate my hormonal drop and to get through it, so I don't hurt him and I don't hurt my 6-year-old son in the meantime, because I'm not perfect. And but it's also changing our vocabulary, because I truly believe that when we're in our PMS phase, it's that link to our wisdom, to the downloads, that it's our PMS truth bombs. What's happening in your environment that you need to relook at? What's not working in your environment, because you think that you can just gun-ho, just go 24/7 and don't change and just keep going, but our hormones are telling us no. It might be just as simple as, you might not have to change anything big. It might just be like, slow down. Yeah. If you don't have this time out to reconnect to your inner self, to your wisdom, to your intuition, then, all hell is going to break loose, and we have to be doing the work in every single phase to be able to have this whole smooth cycle. So I have no pain. Yes, I do have my PMS truth bombs that come up, and my anger and my anxiety, but because I've honed into every single phase, my life just rolls naturally and in flow and just healthy. And we've got to also remember that our period is our health report card. That's what we're forgetting. It's just like our blood temperature, body temperature, our blood pressure, our breathing, our heart rate. We got to remember that our menstrual cycle is telling us that we're healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually. Like, we have to really remember that, how important it is.
It's so important. I think there's so many nuggets to take away from our conversation, but really taking to heart that the fact that we have the ability, which is not a good thing, to take away our period. What is that doing to our body, right? Our period is there. It's a cleanse, and you said it's a health check, and it is a way. It's the way the body is supposed to function. And when we take away this functioning, I don't know what it is that has brought us to this place where we're like, okay, so I have an appendix. I don't need it. Sometimes we got to get rid of it. I get it. If it bursts, you got to get rid of your appendix. I have tonsils. I don't need my tonsils. I have a thyroid. I don't need my thyroid. I have a gallbladder. I don't need my gallbladder. We have this thing where it's not about understanding the why. It's about just taking it away. It's cutting it out. It's stopping it in its tracks. And this is a human thing. This is not, I don't care what you believe, but we are made very, there's a word I'm looking for, but intentionally. Everything about who we are, what we are, where we are, why we are, everything is very intentional. And to think that some little thing happens and we should just take it away, to me is problematic. It is I don't know, the body's just not made that way, and it's heartbreaking when I see this. A little off topic, but I said the gallbladder a few minutes ago. I think if this is still correct, the gallbladder is the number one surgery. Period. It's
really?
Yeah, people get their gallbladder taken out all the time, and what that is going to impact every part of our health going into the future. We're like, not a big deal. We don't need it. We need it for digestion. We need it for cholesterol production. We need it for fat metabolism. I mean, we can go on and on and on about what we need our gallbladder for. But because we have a little pain, I mean, it's not okay. It hurts. I get it. But we don't understand the root cause of dysfunction. We don't understand the root cause of menstrual dysfunction, of gallbladder dysfunction. That's what this is all about. We have to understand the root cause of why all of these things happening, and when it's not happening properly, let's figure out why and address it and do our best to fix it instead of just stopping it or removing it. Anyway, it's a soapbox. Sorry.
Another thing that's very interesting that I really believe is that mind-body connection. And so with all the women that are coming up with PCOS, endometriosis, PMDD, yes, there could be a multiple of reasons why, but let's look at what our menstrual cycle is. It's our direct connection to our natural femininity. So where are you disowning that, and where are you not accepting, being connected to your womb center? Mm-hmm. And I had a client that did the Electrolyte My Period 20-day challenge, and she was a firstborn from an Indian family. Her father was very heavy on her, doing well, studying well. She had PCOS all through her teenage years into her 20s, and she actually did a psychology major, and her professor at the time said it's not until you accept your femininity that you will get rid of your PCOS. And she always remembered that. Anyway, her life took a turn, and she did a PhD and her master's in actually interviewing women to find out, about PCOS and their problems. And so from that, she softened academically, and then she did my challenge, and she then connected all the dots, that it was her drive for the masculine and to be an high achiever, which came from her father and from her culture. And I think she was also the first girl, maybe. She just had that, and that once she softened and accepted the flow of her entire cycle, that her PCOS symptoms really calmed down. It was so fascinating to watch, as she went around her entire cycle and connected every day to her body and what her body was telling her.
Yeah, yeah. It is fascinating. Yeah. It's fascinating because we are, everything about us is so beautifully connected. Our mind, our spirit, our physical body is so connected. And if we look at the physical and we look at PCOS, what we see typically is we've got elevated glucose levels, we've got elevated testosterone, right? So this goes along with just what you're saying about the masculine. So our testosterone is elevated, and so we then have these physical symptoms because we have testosterone, whether it's excess hair or the pimples or you name it. But if we're not addressing the mental, the emotional, as well as the physical, right? Because what is it? It's the chicken or the egg, and how do you really know what comes first? And so probably for her, like you said, it just came from that super masculine, and then the body just goes with it, right? Yeah. So I love that, and I love this. I have a friend of mine who, this was just yesterday, she called me and she was like, I'm having these issues and these symptoms and my cycle, it's crazy, and the weight gain. And so I have tagged her on this. I'm like, I need you to do this. I need you to do this, this 28-day challenge. So I'm hoping that she will. But
can I talk about the weight gain?
Yeah.
Issue? So let's look at diet. So, you know, listen, what diet have you tried out there? What have we got? Keto,
oh my
vegan,
gosh, so many. So many diets.
Well, women, it's all connected to your cycle. Do a cycle diet because your hormones want you to eat differently at the 4 different hormonal changes. So like Nikki was explaining, we go through the seasons. So menstrual is winter. So Nikki, tell me some of your favorite warming, comforting foods in winter.
Yes,
Go.
bone broth and soup,
very good.
and you know, the warm, anything, any kind of soup and warmness. Yes.
Very good, very good. Now we're going to go into our follicular phase. And so this is springtime. Our estrogen and our testosterone are on the rise. So tell me some spring food ideas, or what you love to eat in springtime.
You start to eat berries and you know, some sort of that it really is sort of that in between the warm food and the cool food. But the berries, so you can start to eat some of the lettuces, you know, some salads, things like that.
Yeah.
So you're eating with the
Okay, so let's just look at that. Let's just look at that lettuce thing and just say, like, would you feel nourished, and it's so cold in winter, eating lettuce in your menstrual phase? Do you think your body needs lettuce when it's working overtime internally?
No.
No. No. Okay. So then we go to summertime. So our estrogen and testosterone peaks. So tell me some foods in summer.
Yeah, I mean, lots of vegetables, fruit. You know, I mean, I mean, it's just the cooling, nutrient-dense foods. So less warm, more cooling.
Yep, cool. And then we're going to go into our fall, and so our progesterone is starting to rise, our estrogen and testosterone drops, so now we're coming back, it's getting colder. So what do you love then in fall?
So I see like the heavier, more carby vegetables, you know, your winter squashes, sweet potatoes, things like that, yeah.
Very good. So that's what I do. I change the foods I eat according to where I am in my cycle. And so in my follicular phase, like especially from days 5 to 9, my stomach shrinks, my appetite shrinks. I'm probably at my less weight, and so I really have to be careful with what foods I eat. It's funny, my husband said to me today, "Oh, we've got some pasta in the cupboard, why don't we have that?" And I was just like, no, I'm going to be sick if I eat pasta here in my follicular phase. I can't stomach that. But come to my luteal phase, when it's day 17 of my cycle, my body is working overtime. My progesterone drops big time, and I need more calories. This is where my emotions are. This is where my memories go back to my mum. My mum's cooking. I'm in for spaghetti bolognese, lasagna, mashed potato, anything stodgy. I cannot, here in my follicular and ovulation phases, I eat a lot of chicken and rice Asian meals. I cannot eat an Asian meal here in my luteal phase. If I did, or if I ate a salad, I am looking for food. I am just like scavenging, and then my emotions are way out of whack. I'm up here in the air, I'm not grounded, and so this is where all my work has to be done. And so when I get to my menstrual phase, I've done all the work. I still eat meat because I'm menstruating, but it doesn't have to be. I can't eat pasta again. I eat a lot of bread here in my luteal phase. I can't really eat that. It's back to that Asian beef and rice, or the bone broth soup is excellent. That's that. And so here in my follicular, I can't eat red meat. That is way too heavy for my body there. I can eat fish in this phase, but fish in this phase, doesn't work for me and my body.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to really look at your hormonal changes, see when they change, what days of your cycle, and really hone into the different foods. That is how a diet works for women on a cycle. And the same with exercise. We don't wake up and it's a Monday morning and go, I'm going to do a 5K run because it's Monday. No. You go, where am I in my cycle? What is my body telling me today? And, you know, if I'm here at my luteal phase coming up to my menstrual phase, I'm not going to go do a 5K run.
Right.
Our bodies aren't designed to be like a man who has testosterone that can go 24/7 and is built to build the world and do all the jobs that women don't want to do. We operate in a cycle, and we need to really know where we are in our cycle, what day of our cycle is, what hormonal phase we're in, and what does that mean for me and my body. So here in our follicular phase, it's spring. So this is high intensity. This is where you can push yourself if you want to do any high intensity, you know, and then when you get around to this side of your cycle, this is where you're dropping it to do like more gentle walking, to do more yoga, to do more core strength. But you need to really see what works for you and your body because it is unique. But your hormones are directing every behavior, action, emotion, reaction. And do you want to be in charge of it, or do you want the program running you? Because that's where you're going to end up sick, because you're not listening to your own body. So it's very, very interesting.
It is so interesting, and that's one of the things that you know, as you're talking, one of the things that I say a lot is that we have forgotten how to listen to our bodies. It's you know, from as simple as we have a headache, go take some Advil, to okay, now I have a bellyache, or my PMS symptoms are outrageous, right? These are all symptoms. You know, a joint pain is a symptom, a headache, a brain fog, you know, all the way down to obviously chronic disease. These are all symptoms, or a, you know, collection of symptoms. And instead of just trying to cover them up, which is often what we're doing, really asking why. Always ask why. And if you don't know why, find the people who you trust, who are going to help you answer the questions why, and dig. That's what I do, is I dig, and that's what I want to do, is I want to dig to understand and want to learn. But that's also the way that I'm made. So how I'm built is why. I have a friend of mine, I love her to pieces, but that's one of the things that she would say all the time is, it's like the 5-year-old, and you just why, but never stop asking why. It really is what can help us to understand the body, understand what we need, and then of course when it comes to our menstrual cycle, which really is so beautiful. I mean, yes, it can be a pain. There are things about it that are, you know, kind of sucky, but it is what it is.
Use that to your advantage.
Yes.
You have to design your life to your superpowers of each phase. They're telling you how to act. They're telling you how to behave, and you can design your life around every hormonal change.
So fascinating. And what we have to remember too is, and I don't want to assume that you don't know this. I know you know this, but you know, hormones are communicators. That's their job, is to communicate. They communicate with cells. They communicate with our brain. They tell, you know, we have our sex hormones. We have all of these other hormones, and they are communicating a direction and what we need. And we just need to take the time to learn and to listen. And that's what this is, a great start to that, because once we can learn to listen to our bodies during our cycle, I think it can, well, I know that it can impact so many different parts of our lives, and maybe even, hopefully even, make some things a lot easier that sometimes are just really hard.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure most of your listeners out there, you know, maybe they don't have a problem with their cycle, and it's like the dentist. You know, we just go to the dentist when we have a problem, and so they think they don't have a problem. But I want to say, like, you want to maintain, you know, your cycle like your teeth, and you want to dive our cycle over 300 to 500 times, in a lifetime. And, we can really, get in control of this and, just be connected, as one and just flow with life.
Yeah, so agree. Let's see, so many things that we've talked about.
Can I go over the birth control pill?
Yes, oh my gosh, please.
Yeah, so obviously our body wants to make a baby, we all know that, and that's why we have our certain hormones going through, because that's its mission. That's the program. Just make a baby every month. Oh, you didn't do it? Just make it again.
Yeah.
Make it again. And so we take the hormonal birth control because, we don't want to have a baby. So what happens there is, because we don't want to have a baby, we don't ovulate. Of course, because we don't want a baby. We don't want the egg to get fertilized. So what are we missing out naturally because we're getting a drug that's going to take that away from us? We're missing out of natural libido, natural wanting to connect with others, serve others. This is when we look our most attractive. When you look in the mirror, you just have the clearest skin, your hair shines, you feel good on the inside, and you are just shining so brightly. And this is the best time to have good conversations with people. Leave it. This is what we have to learn with our cycle. There's some things that we need to take a breath and go, when is the best time to do this? It's not about always going, I'm doing it today, I'm going with this. It's about, where am I in my cycle and when's the best time going to be to do it? So good time to have conversations because your communication levels are at the highest. We don't have our natural follicular phase, which is the rise of estrogen and testosterone. This is where we want to be out in the world. This is where we have passion for life. This is where we can get anything done. We can work the extra mile. We can really focus on our goals. We can get our to-do list out. We have clarity of mind. And this is good to work on complex tasks. And like I said, get anything that you need done, get it done here. Then we don't have our menstrual phase, which is that time that we can be really connected to God and to receive those downloads. Women think that they're having a real period when they're on contraceptive pill, but it's not. It's a withdrawal bleed. It's actually a withdrawal of hormones that make it look like they're having a period, but it's just this mucus coming out of the uterus. It's not a real period. And so I think they've designed it so well because psychologically, if you're on the birth control pill, you think you're having a real period and you go, okay, it's time to go back and I'll take my pills and I had my period, but it's not. You're not having a real period. And then, so you're stuck here in your luteal phase. So think of it, you're stuck 24/7 in the fall, so when it's fall, so you're cold all the time. But think about PMS. What's that? What's happening there? The body has the egg lined in the uterus. It's waiting to get fertilized. It thinks it's going to get fertilized. So it's going to do everything to protect that egg. So it's going to punch on it and I'm protecting this egg and I'm going to get irritable and angry and I'm going to be anxious and then I'm going to be sensitive and I'm going to be vulnerable because I'm protecting my egg. This is where you are 24/7 in your luteal phase, in your PMS phase when you're on birth control. I'm not judging you, I'm only providing information. Do a deep dive with Dr. Jolene Brighton and Dr. Sarah Hill. It's so fascinating to really do more research into this field. So imagine living in a country where you're just stuck in fall. So that's it, 24/7. There's no summer holidays. There's no experiencing a different, the springtime, the winter time. You're just stuck. And now let's think about the men that you're attracting. So let's say you're single ladies, so you're just attracting the fall type of guy. What does that mean? It means you're in the feminine type of guy, the soy man. So, where's these hot summer men? No, you're drugged. You're on a program now that's drugging your brain to think and operate in a different way. And so that's very interesting. Really do a deep dive in that, because when you're on the pill, you're attracted to more feminine men, and when you come off it to have a baby, you may find that you're not attracted to your husband anymore because you were on a pill that was masking your natural hormones. And then it's also about the survival of the baby. So you're better off, being off the pill when you attract your husband to have the best survival of the fittest of the baby. Because when you attract someone when you're on birth control, I think your genes are like the same. They're too similar. And it's not like the survival of the fittest. So it's so interesting. I just encourage you to do your own research with those two ladies. It's very, very fascinating.
So Jolene Brighton and who?
Dr. Sarah Hill.
Sarah, spell the last name for me?
Hill.
Hill, okay, got it. Yeah, that's super fascinating. I have a story that goes right along with this that I didn't realize. It's so beautiful that the kind of going back to the first of our conversation, the things that we live through that allow us to learn and to grow, but then to share. And so this is exactly what happened to me. Is I started dating my husband now, and of course we were at that place where we were we didn't want to have kids, and so we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. So I went and I got on the pill. So we had a good amount of time together not on the pill. I went and got on the pill, and so my husband is freaking funny. He's a funny dude. He is silly. He always makes me laugh, and at least makes me smile. So I get on the pill, and I remember driving up into the driveway one time, and I went, is this what I want? It's just not very funny. And I was, it literally, I'm so grateful that at this point I was starting to really dig into health and wellness and starting to learn myself, and had the thought that something's wrong because this is not normal. Something is weird. And so I literally had that thought. I went, it has to be the pill. It took me a little bit to kind of figure it out, but it has to be the pill. Got off the pill, everything was back to normal. Gives me chills to think about. And so it's this fascinating, it's an experience that I had, but taking it back, what I found, what you just said, so amazing, is being stuck in that luteal phase and attracting like. What if a large portion of our divorces could be mitigated, could not happen, whatever you want to call it, if we were not on the pill when we got together, because then we realized that this is not the person for us. Like you said, our brains are drugged. I mean, it's amazing to think of. This stuff is not okay. And we're putting our kids on it. We're changing the personality of our children, the thoughts of our children, the thoughts of ourselves. Everything changes.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it. Like, it's very interesting to see if more studies need to be done on the birth control pill and the divorce rates, for sure. And remember, this is all unconscious as well.
Yeah.
And we are programmed also on a biological level. Females and males are different. We have different purposes, and there's different programs running us. We are so unconscious to it. And so, like you said, the pill is masking all of that, and when you come off it, then that's when problems start, and you just don't know that, like, we're just so unconscious to it. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah, just so unconscious to it.
Well, what you're doing and the message that you're spreading is so important. And it just pisses me off that we have pushed this drug, and I've been on it too. I mean, anyway, and I started it when I was young. But, you know, there's a point to where we just didn't know. We know enough now to know how devastating the pill is and can be, and we're still on it, and we're still putting our children on it. So we've got to, you know, keep spreading your message. So talk about the 28-day challenge. I want you to talk about that because we only got a few minutes left.
Yeah, sure. So when you do my 28-day challenge and say, Alexa, where's my period? It is so intentional. You're saying that every day for 28 days. And so you put on like this curious detective hat. And, you know, you start out, but as you build and build and build, you start honing in on every area of your life, on every aspect of your body. You start noticing the littlest things. You know, I had this one girl that did it, and she probably had PMDD. She was living in China at the time, and she was in this tiny apartment. She did my challenge, and she was just like, after 6 days, I get it. My body's telling me not to stop drinking Coca-Cola. My body is telling me to go out and start walking. And so she always, when she got to the PMS, had like the darkest depression. And from doing the work in all these phases and starting to listen, for the first time, that cycle for her was so, like, you know, subdued for her compared to what it usually is, that she was finally listening to everything that her body was telling her to do, where she should direct her energy and her creativity. And yeah, it was just amazing to watch the transformation.
So good.
And now she's like moved out of China. She's lost so much weight. You know, she's really connected with that natural part of her femininity. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's just amazing transformational experience.
Yeah, I love it so much. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn under Andy Munsey. So yes, I'm here. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation, and let's just dive deep.
Yeah. And I really hope that everybody takes this to heart, especially you moms, especially you kids. Sorry, I mean, I call everybody kids, so it's just, I might be with my, 40-year-old, 50-year-old friends, and I'm calling them kids, so no offense to anybody out there, but it's something to really be aware of and to take the time to really dig in. The best things that we can do are to understand our bodies, understand their needs. I mean, that's what I love about when I practice. And just like you were saying, you see the light bulbs, you go off, and you're like, I get it now. And what a gift it is to understand your body, because we have to live in it. And I'm still learning. I'm learning about my body all the time, and I want to live in it. But I know that when I understand what it's trying to tell me, that I have the ability to continue to do the things that I'm put here to do. And I got a lot of work to do. And we all have a lot of work to do. So I'm super grateful for what you're doing. All of her information, of course, is going to be in the show notes. Find her. Share this show. This is a show. I mean, I always want shows to be shared, right? It's cool. But there are some really important messages that need to be shared. This is certainly one of them. So, yeah, I think that's what we got. So thank you for joining us. So grateful. We'll have you on again. I think this is one of those that needs to be said over and over and over again, for sure. Of course, find us every week here, Taste Life Nutrition Radio and podcast, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, on Instagram, on YouTube, on the Facebook pages, and then you'll find us at the Taste Life Nutrition Podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast. We've got some cool stuff. I've got some new workshops that I've got. I've got a cool detox workshop, another planning for pregnancy workshop. One of my new favorites is creating your specific diet around your genetics. So we can create our diets around our genetics. We can create it around our menstrual cycles. We can really start to integrate all of these things to really optimize our health. And that's what's fun. That's what's fun about what I do, is kind of taking all of these pieces and parts and putting together and saying, okay, now you can take this and run. It's so much fun. It's really fun. So, tastelifenutrition.com, Taste Life Nutrition on all of the social media. Reach out. You can fill out a free assessment on the website, and I'll reach out to you, and we'll chat about it and see what we can do to get you where you want to be. So, thanks all of you for being here. And again, Andy, thank you for all that you're doing and for joining me.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, listeners. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Hang on with me just a second.